What's going on, everybody? We got a ton of stuff to cover today. We're going to talk about Grayscale and Bitcoin. We're going to talk about XRP and the SEC and some upcoming conversations I'll be having with some other people in the crypto community that are on YouTube and stuff. So yeah, let's kick this off. The fear and greed index, we are still in extreme fear, right? It looks like it's a little bit better than yesterday, but staying about the same as it has been. You go down here and look at this. This is the longest we have ever spent down here, pretty much period ever. You know, as long as this has been being recorded anyway. So, in my opinion, that says that we are more than likely to have a move up in sentiment anyway. This isn't a reflection of price, although I'm sure it does normally correlate. Getting into price. We know that, you know, the market is looking pretty rough right now. You know, there's not a lot of stuff that's looking great. And I want to get into why I think that is. But yeah, so in building off of that, you'll notice here, and we're talking about like the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust thing. That's the big news right now, is all the Bitcoins unlocked, you know. So if you just look at like the price of Bitcoin over here, this is about the average spot that they bought. Just to make the math easy on why I think this is not that big of a deal. So if your average price, we'll just put it, you know, right in the middle of this block, because this is the time period when that was all happening. So if your average price is here, and you come down to here, I mean, Bitcoin is at a 15% loss as of right now on the average of when Grayscale trusts were being purchased. And, you know, leaning into the Wyckoff distribution thing, I mean, if you look at it, this is your accumulation. This is when it all goes through, or the distribution rather. And then as it comes back down and crashes, this is where the accumulation starts again. You know, you'll see the range is here with the all-time high from before. Keeps peaking back over, you know, and then you're down in here. It's just, I'm very convinced that this is going to be a short-lived thing. And I forgot to actually pull the Grayscale Bitcoin one up. But when you look at the GBTCs, let me see if I can get it here. Yeah, here, we'll just pull it up real quick. So if we're looking at the same thing, you know, I had already done this before. So actually, that's cool that my chart is still up. Let's fix this up to the updated price levels now. So if you went from the average of that time window when they were actually purchasing directly in the trust, they are at a 37% loss right now. These are accredited investors, people. They are not going to dump all of this Bitcoin. I know you see it right here hovering around 31, you know, and I don't think that this is going to be some huge crash, at least not in regards to this Grayscale business. I think this has been overblown and overhyped for a reason. It's part of the final shakeout before we resume the bull run, in my opinion. This is not financial advice, but it is what I'm doing and how I will be approaching things over here at the True Perception House. So yeah, I just want you guys to be aware of that. The market tends to price these events into itself. So as you can see, went up here, and now it's kind of making its way down, you know, and the narrative has gotten kind of ugly. The extreme fears here, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, that narrative switches on a dime, and when it does, these rocket ships right here, that's funny, I never noticed that, is what we'll be talking about. So, enough of that, but here's some other news that Grayscale decided to release today in the middle of all this. They are unveiling their DeFi fund. It is a second diversified investment product which tracks the CoinDesk DeFi index. Accredited investors are now able to gain exposure to a selection of industry-leading DeFi protocols through the fund. Learn more. So I went over and checked out their website. Just opened, 2 million under management already. That didn't take long. And yeah, you go down here. They got like a paper on some stuff. They talk about other things. Here's the holdings, you know, shares are $4 as of right now because it just opened. And these are the components that you get when you buy the share. This is the same thing with the Bitcoin. You're buying components, basically, with their trust. You're not buying Bitcoin. Grayscale will not be getting rid of their Bitcoin. I think people may sell their shares of the GBTC, but I do not see Grayscale dumping their Bitcoin right now. I think they're going to hold on to all of it. I don't think they sell a single one. Their customers are not in control of that, is my point. So anyway, 50% of it would be Uniswap, which I find interesting because they are tied to some, I don't know if it was Harvard, I believe it might have been, that controls like 85% of their governance power. That's why I personally, not financial advice, I don't deal with Uniswap. I'm a Pancake guy. But you do have the UMA compound, which is great. You got some DAO activity, Aave, Curve, SushiSwap, Yearn. So you can see there's some big stuff in here. And I think this is really interesting that they're now bringing DeFi to the public. Not just to us crypto nerds in the background. I think it's cool that this is brought to the table for everybody now. Leaning into some of the other stuff, this is some more. Grayscale here is talking about how a Bitcoin ETF in the US is a matter of when, not if. They are looking for a couple different points of maturation in the underlying market. That's the final stages of what regulators need to approve these types of products. So let's just listen to this exchange here.
All these assets. All these assets are showing positive returns at this point. I don't know, for Bitcoin itself, it depends on where you entered about whether you have a positive return. And we've noticed that lately, we're joking around, it's less volatile than the Dow. I guess you can see it on the chart there. Now, some people would say that's a good thing because maybe it eventually loses some of the risk that would be involved with it being a true currency or used for transactions. Others say, I don't know, that it represents what China's kind of done, and that maybe there's increasing regulatory fears that are putting a cap on it.
Well, I think what we've certainly seen over the years is this ecosystem to, continue to get challenged. The recent ban on mining in China we view as a positive thing. We've seen the mining distribution fan out to other parts of the world, including here in the US. And investors in this asset class are really not focused on the short term or any short-term movements in price. These are really investors looking at their allocations over the medium to longer term. And so any volatility or even dampening of volatility is not something that anyone is fazed by.
It might be focused if it broke under 30 and had one of those pullbacks or corrections that we've seen in other years, might get a little bit more focused. But there are people that just stack, that's for sure, that no matter what happens, they're going to keep stacking. What about an ETF? There's an article today about some of Gensler's comments, and that we're as far away from an ETF as we were 5 years ago, even though it's always supposed to be imminent, because of the fears that that regulators have that they're not protecting investors adequately yet in digital assets.
Well, a Bitcoin ETF here in the US, Joe, is really a matter of when, not a matter of if. I don't know if you kind of saw this last week. We announced our partnership with BNY Mellon, and we are, again, 100% committed to converting our flagship product, GBTC, into an ETF when regulatory approvals are ready for that type of product. I think from our seat, in our view of the world, we're really looking for, a couple of different points of maturation in the underlying market. And that's really kind of the final stages of what we think regulators need to approve those types of products and give investors the protections that they're looking for.
And that's coming from Grayscale, guys. It's the biggest digital asset fund, I guess is the right way to say that, on the planet. And I think the ETF will be approved when somebody like Goldman or JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley decides that they want to do one. I think that's when you'll see it happen. And then everybody will fall in line. Digital Asset Investor had posted, he goes, hey, I'm looking for the Joseph Lubin interview from 9:35 a.m. where Hinman declares Ethereum a non-security. And then at 2 p.m., you interview Lubin, but I can't find it. He had to be pretty pumped. It must be a great interview. Can you guys help me find it? And then we ended up seeing, we got this clip from Real XRP Boy. And just listen. It says, boy, I just listened. Now I know why it was so hard to find. Strap in. Listen to what he says.
And Director of Corporate Finance of the SEC, indicated that were perfectly viable and wouldn't be considered securities if they're properly constructed and properly marketed, so not sold in enormous quantities to speculators. So we at Consensus, at our Token Foundry project, continue to do lots of that work. We've had some successful sales recently, and are moving towards more successful sales. In particular, the Civil Project, a platform for ethical and sustainable journalism, which many of us are extremely passionate about.
Yes, us especially at Yahoo Finance. I'm glad you mentioned what Bill Hinman said about Ether not being a security.
What a bunch of cheese balls, dude. I don't know what it is about Lubin, but I can stand him even less than Vitalik, to be honest. He is not a well-spoken individual. This is from the All Market Summit. One of the big things where the speech was given. Listen to this. Hinman spoke at 9:35, and then he was up at 2:10. And you just keep listening to what went on this day, man. This is crazy.
Okay, so I want to get your quick answers to a few things before we get to a final round of questions. What do you think is going to happen to Ripple with this new ruling?
I don't know the answer to that. I wasn't able to read through Bill's entire speech, and I wasn't here. I don't know if he spoke about XRPs at all.
He didn't specifically mention anything about it.
So that's interesting.
So yeah, I mean, the fact that he named two other things but didn't name that one is certainly something that should perk up ears.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but my ears have been perked up. We got a continuation. Prepare to spit out your cinnamon coffee, part 1. This is right after Hinman declared it a non-security, and he describes how they pre-planned Vitalik's 2014 Miami presentation. And then part 2 will be Vitalik's 2014 Miami presentation. Oh boy, he says. Check this out.
Yes, so we did.
What was that like? What was the energy
it started out on Skype channels and some meetups around the world, so really pretty decentralized, remarkably. And we all gathered at the end of January 2014 in a house for around 10 days, maybe a little more, in advance of the North American Bitcoin conference in Miami. And Vitalik was scheduled to deliver this paper describing the Ethereum platform. And we sort of constructed what the project would be in that time together.
Okay, so I'll talk a bit about the funding model. So we will have a fundraiser for 2 months starting February 1st. It will be available at funds.ethereum.org. So the idea is that part of the initial issuance will be 1,000 Ether for 1 Bitcoin, or up to 2,000 Ether for 1 Bitcoin if you get in early to compensate for the increased risk. So the issuance model is that we will suppose that we hand out X Ether through the fundraiser, then there will be about 0.5x will be pre-mined, and then 0.4x after that will be mined per year forever. So it's this hybrid of the Mastercoin and Ripple model and the pure Bitcoin mining model, and even to a slight extent the inflationary model.
Yes.
So if it's a hybrid, it takes from all those different things, and all of those were considered to be non-securities except for XRP. Just digest that for a minute. Moving on, Bill he's apparently so unfamiliar with Hinman he can't even get his name out. Strange. So listen to this.
Okay, so I want to know a little bit about your thoughts about this regulation stuff.
Yeah.
So some people think it's too lenient, some people think it's too harsh, or that the SEC is just ill-equipped in general. What do you think? How do you think the SEC is doing in terms of regulating blockchain?
I think they're doing really well.
That's pretty surprising.
Why is that surprising to you?
I don't know. I feel like everyone has a bone to pick with the SEC.
No, we're very impressed with what they've been doing with.
Of course you are. They gave you a free pass.
The statements they've been making. So essentially, there are so many great projects in our space. There are lots of bad projects in our space, and there are lots of fraudulent projects in our space, and that is a problem. Essentially, if as the SEC has been stating for many months, if you sell something like a token to consumers with the indication that those consumers will make profits by the agency of others, then that's effectively an investment in a security. And the SEC has been messaging that for a pretty long time, but a lot of projects didn't really get that. Bill spoke today more about the decentralization of the platform, but it's also significantly about the Howey test. So you can, and I think his remarks today made that clearer, you can sell a token, issue a token, sell a token that defines some sort of consumer utility on a protocol-based open platform, basically pursuing a network business model as opposed to a company customer business model, which is often adversarial. But on a network business model, you can have lots of different people and companies in different roles without, let's say, an enormous intermediary in the middle sucking up lots of the value.
Interesting stuff, guys. It keeps going. He says, I find it interesting the SEC has no interest in Ethereum's past, but great interest in Ripple's past. So, and he says here, I think the SEC represented by Hinman were careful not to say anything about the past because it probably doesn't matter to them right now, but we did about 7 months of legal work. I wonder why he thinks that. Probably because somebody told him that. Listen to this.
If there's a token there, that represents some sort of business logic. It could be membership. It could be consumption of scarce resources. On Ethereum, it could pay for computation and storage and effectively trusted transactions and automated guaranteed execution of agreements. And so if you sell that token to consumers who will use it, and not specifically in huge quantities to investors, promising them enormous returns, then that's a good, clean consumer utility token and would not be considered a security.
So your idea is that basically because you sold Ethereum as being a tool rather than some store of value, and because you approach developers with it rather than more traditional investors. You can sell a store of value.
You can sell gold, which people consider to be a store of value, but it's not a security.
So the question, though, is that Ethereum, too, had its own ICO, back in the day. Maybe
we called it a token launch. We were very careful to stay away from the term ICO because it leads people to believe that it's something akin to an IPO, and it wasn't.
So you don't think that that ICO at the very beginning, or that token launch, my apologies, you don't think that that's going to end up being regulated as something that was a security sale in the end?
I think we heard a statement already to the effect that Ether...
Guys, you can't make this stuff up. He's literally talking about if a token is sold more or less as like a utility on the network, something that's used, then it wouldn't fall under the thing. XRP is used for transferring large amounts of funds between banks. I mean, come on, guys. This guy's so full of shit.
Transactions involving Ether are not considered securities transactions. I think they were careful not to say anything about the past because it probably doesn't matter to them right now, but we did about 7 months of legal work, and we were thoroughly convinced that it was a consumer utility token before we launched the sale.
Such trash, man. I mean, if this doesn't piss you guys off, I don't know what will. So it keeps going. Right after the speech, what do you think is going to happen next other than the massive price spike we are seeing happen as we speak? I wonder who owned ETH on that day. Interesting stuff.
It's pretty surprising. I don't think a lot of people know that you guys actually delayed the Ethereum launch for 7 months so that you could go through the legal framework.
In that Miami house, we were contemplating doing the token launch the Tuesday after Vitalik announced the project.
That could have imploded this whole industry almost, but
could have, might have been problematic.
Might have been problematic. So instead, you guys waited and you did your due diligence and you really figured out what to do with this. So what does this new ruling and this commentary mean for Ethereum going forward? What do you think is going to happen next, other than the massive price spike that we're seeing happening as we speak?
Sure. So the implications for Ether itself are that it can continue to trade freely. You and I can trade it here. It can trade on decentralized exchanges. It can trade on centralized exchanges that are not specifically registered to trade securities. So essentially no disruption. But my personal opinion is that the implications are much more profound. Ethereum is a platform. It's one of these network business model platforms. It's a protocol-based open platform on which we can build applications. At our company Consensus, we're building many more protocol-based open platforms that are tied together with a token that has different kinds of business logic, different kinds of incentivization mechanisms to essentially accomplish mechanism design on that platform. And so in journalism, in the music industry, in supply chain, in other creative spaces, in bounties, we are building these protocol-based open platforms with different tokens that we believe we will be able to sell, and we believe that if properly constructed and properly marketed, they won't be considered securities.
Yeah, whatever. Don't forget the ties to the Ethereum Foundation by Hinman and Clayton through One River, which is mainly Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that. This is all such horse shit, man. They had made so much money here. The media has decided to not do its job on this. It's going to be up to you, Congress. The people are watching. And this has, DAI says this is the financial story of the century that continues to be ignored while the media distracts you with Bitcoin. Media, journalists, hello. And, there is a tweet going on Twitter now that I retweeted where we have, I wouldn't say we, but DAI has tagged literally any senator, congressman, or anything you can think of. I mean, it's pretty long now. There's quite a few of them, and journalist outlets and news media outlets and everything. Nobody's talking about it. And just listen to what I just lost my train of thought. Listen to what Jeremy Hogan here says.
Already, and Ripple said yes, it's moving forward. And the attorney for the SEC said she wasn't sure that we would need time to evaluate that, is what I wrote down. Now, this was a scheduled deposition. The judge said that she was going to allow it to go forward, but the SEC will evaluate that? Very curious. Now, to me, that can only mean one thing. Now, absent an agreement between the parties, the SEC intends to appeal the ruling allowing the deposition to go forward, or at least to consider doing that, and that's almost never done. You have no idea how rare that it would be, an interlocutory appeal. First, the standard is almost impossible to meet. The order allowing the deposition would have to be clearly erroneous, and the judge who would make that decision that it's clearly erroneous is the district court judge, Judge Torres, who was working with Judge Netburn on this case and probably even knew what Judge Netburn was going to do with this issue. So what I'm saying is a little conspiracy theorist-ish, which I am not by nature, but even thinking about appealing this order suggests to me that the SEC is desperate, this smacks of desperation, for this deposition to not go forward. Why exactly they are desperate, I do not know, but there is something there that is just not normal bad, but really, really bad. But here's the caveat to that. Ripple probably doesn't know exactly what the SEC is hiding. Maybe they do, but after today, I don't think so. And the bad news is that Judge Netburn is going to be very restrictive on the scope of what Ripple can ask about. She was unusually clear at the end of the hearing, when I think she was getting a little pissed off at everyone, that what makes the case exceptional is the speech, and maybe what led up to the speech. What I'm saying is that there is something to be unearthed here, and the question is, will Ripple be able to unearth it? Now, I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is that this fight is far from over. We'll be seeing this issue in front of Judge Netburn again, I guarantee it. Everyone now knows that there's too much writing on it.
And keep in mind that it said in a previous article yesterday that they have come to enough of an agreement to move forward, and the deposition has been scheduled for the 27th of this month. That could change, obviously. And then this testimony should infuriate everyone. He testified 1 week after the Hinman speech giving ETH clarity. It's been over 3 years since this nonsense testimony. Hester Pierce and Roisman just publicly stated the SEC continues to not provide clarity, and they work for the SEC, guys. Why? It's money. Like I said, One River and the Ethereum Foundation and all that stuff with the ties to these two guys, while they were in their positions, they were receiving money from the law firms that they worked for who also have ties. It's all just crazy stuff. So let's listen to this exchange here.
Critical distributed ledger technology. I think we need to get this regulatory certainty. To use an example of folks that have tried to do this, Ripple's just one of many digital assets that come to mind. And I'm aware there are numerous court cases regarding this company. Do you think it's prudent for Congress or the SEC to lead the way in clarifying what is a security or commodity instead of waiting for the courts?
So I think as regulators of the securities market, it's important for us to bring clarity to those markets. I do. But I think we are doing that. We have turned to this space. We've issued guidance. The space is developing. But all of that guidance and our enforcement actions are rooted in a very well-tested approach to the raising of capital in the United States. And I can't be more clear about this. I am not going to advocate for any fundamental changes in the way we raise capital to accommodate the technology. Now, the technology can make what we do more efficient, but I'm not going to change the rules because we have a new technology.
Yeah, fair point. The Howey test has been there, and I appreciate, frankly, Director Hinman last week clarifying that Ether is not viewed as a security. There had been some concern after some of your remarks that everything looks like it fits with the Howey test, and,
When you're raising capital for a project?
Right, and
even though Ethereum had a sufficiently decentralized itself. So we're not changing the rules except for with Ethereum and Bitcoin.
as I think you and I agree, certainly many companies have essentially engaged in regulatory arbitrage and used white papers to raise more capital than they could through the existing framework. However, some companies, for securities, and that body of law, I think you guys have taken an effective approach.
And we want to help people. Look, I'm not saying do it, then we want to help people.
And you set up an office to be able to do that and equipped it with resources. So I appreciate that.
When they make the Ripple SEC movie one day, I think Clayton should be played by Jason Bateman, because sometimes he looks like he's got like a Marty Bird vibe going on. Later, when Hinman would say the speech was significant because it's the first time we gave guidance, was the we the SEC? Was the we the co-founder in Ethereum and him? Did he help Hinman write the speech? Or was the we his law firm, a board of the Ethereum Alliance? Great questions. Great questions. You keep going on here. Make no mistake about this ruling. It is not a small victory. It is a significant victory that is on the same level as the victory related to the judge ordering the productions of internal memorandum regarding Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. It is huge, guys. I mean, look, it says Ripple scored another small victory, and it's, they don't want to play it down. Nobody wants this to be a big deal like it is. These videos aren't going away, people. On page 24 of the SEC's opposition to intervention. So this is when, John Deaton organized the 10,000 XRP holders, trying to seek intervention because they are rightful parties, in my opinion, because we were affected by it and our voice should be heard. They state the XRP traded, even in the secondary market, is the embodiment of those facts, circumstances, promises, and expectations, and today represents that investment contract. The SEC has claimed that XRP itself is a security. So they're essentially claiming it doesn't matter how it's bought, sold, or anything, that it is. And this person says, I'm not even a lawyer in the U.S., but it's terribly concerning to see how the U.S. lawyers and so-called crypto lawyers specifically can't manage to appropriately read a goddamn complaint. For the millionth time, the SEC referred to XRP itself as a digital asset security. That's why we should have our voice. The SEC has sued Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, seeking $1.3 billion. The SEC claimed XRP itself as a security, yet they allowed Jed McCaleb to openly sell his massive holdings of XRP while your XRP on Coinbase is frozen. How much XRP has Jed sold since 12/22, and for how much? He's sold billions, to my understanding. I think it's in the billions now. It's several hundred million, if not. I should have pulled that up, but I don't have that ready to go, and I'm not going to worry with it. But we all know Jed McCaleb's not even mentioned in the lawsuit, even though he was one of the main founders of the damn company. John Deaton was here, he's quoting here, XRP is not a security, from Representative Tom Emmer, Tom Emmer. And this other person had taken an important step towards clarity for crypto and digital tokens, and they have put out a bill for the Securities Clarity Act, which was introduced a couple days ago. This talks about it a little bit more. We have seen a lack of clear regulations that hinder the progress of blockchain-based technologies. The development of these innovations should not be impacted by the government's inability to adjust. The Clarity Act will allow America to compete in this new arena without sacrificing the consumer and investor protections that have made our capital markets the strongest in the world. American companies have already tried to follow our current rules and navigate our security regulations. Now they deserve a certainty form from our regulators when offering their digital assets to the public. This is a bipartisan solution that can provide long-lasting growth and innovation in our country. I'll be paying close attention to that. I hope this passes because it will be big. Then you get some safe harbor thrown on top of that, and it is ready to go. Here is the bill. It's pretty short. We're not going to go over that because it's legal stuff, but I'll put it in the description. James Rule put this in. The SEC is admitting to the lack of clarity of whether a digital asset is a currency or a security based on the Howey test, which, by the way, is damn near, 80 years old. Hester Pierce and Roisman have stated, and these are SEC officials, that it is not crystal clear. Let me just go ahead and open that statement up. And they have said here, there is a decided lack of clarity for market participants around the application of securities laws to digital assets and their trading, as is evidenced by the requests each of us receives for clarity and the consistent outreach to the commission staff for no action and other relief. They talk about the Howey test being helpful, but often, including with many respects to digital assets, the application of the test is not crystal clear. And they're talking about market participants having difficulty getting a lawyer to sign off if something is not a security because there isn't the clarity there. It's not backed by clear commission level statements. The industry, through efforts like the Crypto Rating Council framework to consistently and objectively assess whether any given crypto asset has characteristics that make it more or less likely to be classified as a security under the U.S. federal securities laws, has sought to play a constructive role in providing clarity. But the commission has to engage more. They have purposely not given this clarity. This is where all this goes into play. Shout out to them for really leading this thing. Very important people. And then this is getting more into how long is this? In terms of a minute, we'll listen to it. But they're talking about the bull run not being over and how Jim Cramer just does not buy that.
But in terms of long-term investors, Jim, who are thinking a year out, do you look through the Delta variant at this point? Do you
yes,
not? I mean, we've been looking through a lot of stuff, and so the question is, you look through it.
You look through it. All these athletes that are testing, they're obviously asymptomatic, or else they wouldn't be just crushing it right now. So I think that and I think also, by the way, the J&J, Dr. Topol says that's the one to be careful of, not to disparage J&J, particularly with this talc thing that they've got going. But I just think that where we are is there's just so much fear in the market. And I just think that the asymptomatic is not as dangerous. The deaths are not going up that much. So I'm not buying that this is the end of the bull market. I'm saying that most of the companies that are involved with technology have been rolling over for days, maybe even weeks. And suddenly everyone's discovered that. I'm looking at things like Cleveland-Cliffs. They're selling at 1.8 times earnings. Interesting.
What about a Facebook?
So there you have it. He's not buying it. The bull runs over, and neither am I. I've been saying that forever. Something to keep an eye on is I will be doing a little conversation piece. We're going to get on Zoom. Actually, tonight, me and Blockchain Monkeys, we're going to have some conversations. He's a guy, we follow each other on YouTube. We've been kind of communicating on Twitter for a while, so we thought it'd be cool to get on here and talk some crypto, and we'll be posting that in the next couple days. Here is his website. Any individual or group who is actively pursuing the dominance of life in the most positive way possible. And, it just talks about, they got some stuff for sale. Shout out to them real quick just to get them some coverage. Make sure you go follow these guys. They're cool. Good people. Also has his YouTube channel. As you can see, let's just go to play all and see what it says up here. Got almost 300 videos that this guy's posted, tons of content. He's got some pretty short clips, which is cool because you can kind of condense the information in the small batches. You guys know I try to do that, but I talk way too damn much. I'm sure this video is already 30 minutes long at this point. And then I have been communicating with this guy also. He's been doing some cool interviews with people. He's super new on the scene. But he did a little interview with Matty G. See if it's up right now, or maybe it's on Matty G's site. I don't know. I just saw it the other day though. they had a cool little exchange, and him and I are supposed to get on Zoom and have something similar here in the next few days. I'm going to try to get it done before I go to Disney this weekend. My kids will be going there for the first time. And this is where this guy, I don't know if he works or if he owns it, but he had brought it up in a conversation we had. They deal with the Delta 8 THC, which is the federally legal stuff. I think it's super low THC in comparison to some other stuff. I'm not real sure on how that works, but that's what he was talking about, so I figured I'd pop it on there for him. And yeah, that's it. Give the video a like and a subscribe. Drop me a comment, guys. We are, let's see if I've hit 250 since I've been recording. We have not. I am hitting 250 probably today, though. Shout out to all of you that have made that possible. I am going to do an AMA at some time, either before I go to Disney or right when I get back. Once I figure out when I'm going to do that, obviously it'll be live. I'm going to do it on YouTube. I'll be posting the link on my Facebook and my Twitter and everything else. I'll probably run it for like an hour or so, depending upon how many people come in. And you can ask me whatever you want. If you're not familiar with what an AMA is, it's, ask me anything. I'll probably maybe I'll bring the wife and the kids on for a few minutes, maybe even the dog, just so you guys can get to know us a little bit better. But that'll be something that's cool. I've never done that. I just wanted to do something different since I'm a quarter of the way to 1,000. Mission to 1K is still underway, guys. Keep pumping this. You guys are doing awesome. This is growing a lot faster than I even thought it would. So I'm super happy with that. And yeah, give me a follow over on Twitter at True Perception 3, where you can get all the retweets and stuff. I don't cover, but I'm involved with a lot more news than I even put on the channel because there's just no time for some of it. Cover a lot of different products. And yeah, that's it, guys. I'm going to jump off here. My wife's got to go to work soon, and I'm going to hang out with the kids and get some stuff done around the house today while I don't have any jobs. And just remember, guys, extreme fear, that's the narrative. And usually when you get down in these things, right when you think it's just going to keep getting worse, kind of like this, at any point in time, this thing could just take off. And just to cover, I didn't do this earlier. This is everything that I typically cover. This is everything that I hold in whatever amounts. And you see, stuff's hurting. Obviously, on the year, we're all up. It depends on how long you've been in the space. But, keep an eye, guys. Bitcoin is holding firm this morning, even though all this Bitcoin, 16,000 Bitcoin coming to the market. There's not 16,000 Bitcoin coming to the market. And in fact, this trust doesn't even look like it's suffering that hard to me, honestly. The candle opened at 26. It's down to 25 something. So since opening today, when all this chaos was supposed to take place, it had dropped down. Yeah, 16,000 Bitcoin, responsible for a 3% drop in a Bitcoin trust. Come on, guys, pay attention. I'll see you on the next one.